This conference will now be recorded.
In today's session, we'll try to understand about one service, that is CloudWatch. So what is this CloudWatch, right? So far we discussed about some important services. I'm not saying we discussed all the services in AWS. There are hundreds of services in AWS. So based on your use case, based on your requirement, you can create appropriate service in AWS, and you can start accessing or deploying your applications into that services. We discussed about compute related service like EC2, storage related service like EBS, S3, networking related services like VPC, Route 53, and also we discussed about load balancing related services like ELB, auto scaling groups, and Kubernetes related services like EKS, ECR. This ECR we have not discussed, but ECR is a container registry where you can manage the container images. And we discussed about database related services like RDS and DynamoDB. Like this, we discussed about various services, compute services, network services, load balancing services, Kubernetes and container services, databases as a services. We discussed these services. We are going to discuss today one more service, that is CloudWatch. So what is CloudWatch? CloudWatch is also one service in AWS. It's a monitoring service. It's a monitoring service. So CloudWatch, we can monitor the applications and the infrastructure in AWS. So AWS CloudWatch, Amazon CloudWatch collects and visualize the logs and metrics. It can collect the logs and it can collect the metrics, and we can visualize those metrics, and we can take some actions based on the metrics, whatever is gathered by CloudWatch. So CloudWatch monitors, this CloudWatch monitors your AWS resources and applications you run on AWS. So CloudWatch will monitor your AWS resources. Can I consider all these things as AWS resources like EC2, EBS, S3, VPC, ELB, EKS, auto scaling group, RDS, whatnot, whatever they're offering, all these things as I can call it as AWS resources. So CloudWatch can monitor our AWS resources like your servers, your storage, your networks, your load balancers, your databases, etc. And also the applications, which are which you are running on AWS, also we can monitor using CloudWatch. So CloudWatch will collect the metrics, collect and track the metrics. Metrics are nothing but some kind of a data about your hardware. That can be compute data, that can be memory data, that can be storage data. I mean to say disk information, CPU information, memory information, your load balancer request, how many requests are going for your load balancer, some such type of metrics. So CloudWatch will collect the metrics like CPU metric, memory metric, disk metric, network metrics, like that. So CloudWatch can collect the metrics and we can track the metrics, right? And using these metrics, using this CloudWatch metrics, we can measure our resources, our resource utilization. You can measure our resource utilization. Let's say you have some EC2 instance, and CloudWatch can collect the CPU utilization, CPU metric of that EC2, and you can measure the utilization of CPU in that EC2 instance. What was the CPU utilization? Such type of metrics. And also CloudWatch can collect the metrics. Using that CloudWatch metrics, you can create alarms. You can create alarms based on the metrics collected, by CloudWatch. Using that CloudWatch, you can create alarms, which means you can take some action based on the metrics, whatever is gathered by CloudWatch. Based on that metrics, you can create alarms. Using that alarms, you can take some action. That alarms can be sending a notification. Alarm can be sending a notification. Let's say I have one EC2 instance, that CloudWatch is collecting the metrics of that EC2 instance, like CPU utilization, network utilization, like that. Based on that metrics, I can create alarm, kind of a condition. If the CPU utilization greater than 80%, what action I have to take? I can do that by creating alarm. That alarm can be sending a notifications. What do you mean by notification? Using CloudWatch alarm, you can send the notification based on some condition, based on some metric threshold value. What do you mean by notification here, guys? What do you mean by notification here? CloudWatch can collect the metrics, and using those metrics, you can create alarms. In the alarm, you can specify what action has to be taken when that condition is satisfied. Such action can be a notification. What do you mean by notification? It is plain English, notification. What do you mean by notification? Anyone? I'm not asking anything technical. Notification. Notification is nothing but some kind of a message that can be message. That is basically a message. Notification is nothing but a message. You are going to send a message, notification to the people, whoever you want to notify, that the CPU utilization, the server CPU utilization is so and so, like that. You can send the notification. If you get the notifications, right, that can be a developer, or that guy can be a DevOps engineer. Will he take some action? Will he or she will take some action the moment you are notified that there is a lot of CPU utilization on the EC2, lot of memory utilization on the EC2, or your EC2 is running out of disk, like that. You can take some action. You can send the notification, kind of a message. And also, not only notifications, you can make some changes to the resources. You can make some changes to the resources. If required, I can reboot the instance. If required, I can reboot the instance. I can take some action in a CloudWatch alarm. If the threshold value is satisfied, if required, I can terminate the server. If required, I can stop the server. If required, I can reboot the server. Those type of actions also can be taken. Otherwise, you can initiate a event. You can inform auto scaling group that some condition is satisfied. So auto scaling group can take some action also. So metrics is basically a data collected by CloudWatch, kind of a CPU metric, memory metric, disk metric, load balancer metrics, RDS metrics, EBS metrics, S3 metrics, like that. Metrics are basically information about that hardware, like a CPU, memory, or that can be a software metrics like RDS metrics, S3 metrics, Lambda metrics. So CloudWatch will collect the metrics, and using those metrics, you can visualize the data also. You can visualize that metrics, that information. If required, you can create alarms also. If required, you can create alarms also to take some action. So is everyone clear what is CloudWatch, and what do you mean by CloudWatch metrics, and what do you mean by CloudWatch alarms? That alarms is, again, based on the metrics, you can create some alarms only. Clear everyone? First of all, what is CloudWatch, and what do you mean by metrics, and what do you mean by alarms? Let me show that. Let me show that. Let me go to EC2. Let me go to EC2. EC2 is one service. EC2 is one service. Already CloudWatch is gathering some metrics from these EC2 instances, kind of a free monitoring, There is a detailed monitoring, there is kind of a free monitoring. Free monitoring, free monitoring in the sense every 5-minute interval only some metrics are available for free of cost. For free of cost only there are 7 metrics. There are only 7 metrics. There are only 7 metrics offered for free of cost, again for every 5 minutes interval for EC2. If you go to the any EC2 instance, you go to monitoring, you can see some metrics. CPU utilization, right? Network in, network out, and also disk read, disk write operations. Only these metrics are available for free of cost at every 5 minutes interval. At every 5 minutes interval, there will be a logs. There will be a metrics. These are not logs. Understand the difference between logs and metrics. Okay. So metrics are like a information about the hardware resources like a CPU, memory, right? Or network. If it is a load balancer, EBS, right? EBS metrics in the sense like a storage metrics, whether that EBS is in a what state, and ELB logs like how many requests are going to that ELB, those type of metrics is available. And by default, there is only free monitoring. In the free monitoring for EC2, only 7 metrics are available at every 5-minute interval. Again, not at every 1 second or 10 seconds, it is not going to gather. And again, only few metrics, only CPU utilization, like that. If you see, this is available for free of cost. If I go to CloudWatch also, there is one service called CloudWatch. If I go to CloudWatch also, you can see metrics. You can see metrics. You can see there are metrics and alarms, metrics and alarms. So there are already some metrics available for most of the services. You can see there are metrics available for my ELB, there are metrics available for EC2, there are metrics available for EBS, there is a metrics available for DynamoDB. So using CloudWatch, you can gather the metrics from AWS resources like EC2, ELB, EFS, like this. If you see, there is a EC2 metrics. There is a EC2 metrics. If I go to this EC2, guys, I went to CloudWatch. I went to CloudWatch here, and there is something called metrics. I went to all metrics, and here by default AWS is gathering some metrics for us. By default AWS is gathering some metrics for us. So these are managed by AWS by default. And EC2 metrics, if I go, you can see again, per instance, you can see based on the AMI ID, you can see the metrics. Based on the auto scaling group, you can see the metrics, like that. Let me go to per instance metrics. I want to see instance level metrics. Let me go to instance metrics, and you can filter based on the instance ID also. You can filter based on the instance ID. It is having lot of metrics. But these metrics already these servers are stopped or terminated basically. So that's why there is no instance name here, because these instances are already terminated long back. If required, whatever EC2 instances you have, you can filter based on that instance ID. You can filter based on that instance ID to see the metrics. Let me take some server. Let's take some server. Maybe let's take this server. This is my instance ID. If I go to CloudWatch metrics, if I go to per instance metrics, I can filter based on this instance ID. You can see already by default these metrics are gathered by default by CloudWatch. CPU utilization, network packets in, network packets out, disk reads, disk writes, like this. Only these are available for free of cost at 5-minute interval. Now if I go to the CPU utilization, let me select this. Now can I see what is the CPU utilization of that instance in the percentage? Like this time 13th second 2023 at 8 4 8 4 8 o'clock 49 minutes, there was 6, 2.6 utilization. Now very less like this. So it is gathered by default for a free of cost at every 5-minute interval, but it is not going to gather at every 1-minute interval. If you have to gather that every 1-minute interval, you need to enable the detailed monitoring. Detailed monitoring is chargeable. Detailed monitoring is chargeable. Once you enable the detailed monitoring, if required, by installing CloudWatch agent, by enabling the detailed monitoring, if required by installing CloudWatch agent, you can gather custom metrics also, whatever is not gathered by default. If you see, by default, is memory utilization is gathered here. Is anything related to memory? Is RAM information is available, like how much RAM is being utilized, like that? As of now, for the free of cost, no. So if required, by installing that CloudWatch agent, by installing CloudWatch agent and by installing CloudWatch agent and configuring that CloudWatch agent, you can send the custom metrics also to the CloudWatch. So let me demonstrate practically. And let me show you how it works. That CloudWatch. Let me show that how it works. CloudWatch is one service. It's a managed service in AWS. CloudWatch is one service. It's a managed service in AWS. If you see this documentation itself, you can understand how CloudWatch works. You can understand by looking at this itself. You can understand how CloudWatch works. So CloudWatch is one monitoring service that will collect the metrics. From AWS resources like EC2, EBS, EFS, S3, and also you can collect the custom data, your own custom data, custom metrics, also by installing CloudWatch agent and by configuring CloudWatch agent. You can send the custom metrics also to the CloudWatch. And once the metrics are available in a CloudWatch, if required, you can take some action based on the metrics. You can create alarms. CloudWatch alarms based on the metrics. You can send a notification using CloudWatch metrics by creating an alarm, or you can trigger an auto scaling group. By creating a CloudWatch alarm based on the metrics, or if required, you can take some action on the EC2 instance also, like stopping the EC2 instance, rebooting the EC2 instance, like that, using alarm. So let's say I have some EC2 instances. Let's consider this is my EC2 instance. Let's say this is my EC2 instance, and you have something called CloudWatch. That is one service. So this CloudWatch is already gathering. It is collecting the metrics. From these AWS resources already. That is free monitoring, not a detailed monitoring. So this CloudWatch is collecting the metrics. You can gather the metrics from CloudWatch using CloudWatch metrics. EC2 metrics. In case of EC2, CPU utilization, disk utilization, network in, network out, like this. And by installing CloudWatch agent, you can gather the custom metrics also. Like memory utilization or disk utilization, like this. By installing CloudWatch agent, you can gather the custom metrics like memory utilization, disk utilization, like this. So once you have these metrics, you can visualize these metrics. In a nice dashboard also. By looking at this, now can you understand already there is a metrics collected by CloudWatch from this EC2 instance. This is one metric, CPU utilization. Can I see in a nice dashboard what is the CPU utilization at what point of time? So 1 hour interval, like 11:20, what was the CPU utilization? 11:25, like this. Can I see in a nice visualization those metrics? Yes. And also you can create alarms and actions. Now let me show that. Let me create some EC2 instance just for demonstration purpose, this CloudWatch. Let me show that how it works. Just for demo purpose, I am creating EC2 instance. But already is all these EC2 instances, the free monitoring is already enabled and gathered some metrics? Yes. So let me create some EC2 instance just for demo purpose, this CloudWatch. Let's say this is my application server. I'm trying to deploy one application. Let's consider this is one application server where I'm going to deploy one application. I will deploy later, but I have not deployed. Let me create one server. Now I'm creating a server with my requirements, whatever instance type, whatever key pair, whatever network, whatever storage, that doesn't matter. I'm creating one server. By default, only free monitoring is enabled. By default, only free monitoring is enabled. If you go to this server, if you go to monitoring, only free monitoring is enabled. Free monitoring is enabled, but detailed monitoring is not for free of cost. Detailed monitoring is not for free of cost. If you have to enable detailed monitoring, it is chargeable. It is chargeable, as I already told. So let's wait for this application to become ready. Let's wait for this application to become ready. Let's wait for this server to become ready. Now, if you go to this monitoring, right, it is still starting, right? It will take some time. It is still starting. It will take some time to initialize, get the data. So let's wait for this server to become ready. This is free monitoring. Only few metrics are gathered for free of cost, that to 5-minute interval. But in real time, do you need to get the metrics at very less interval quickly, like every 10 seconds or every 1 minute, like that? What was the CPU utilization, like every 1 minute, like last minute, what was the CPU utilization, memory utilization, like that, every 1 minute interval, so that you can detect the problem quickly and you can take some action. So that is not for free of cost. That detailed monitoring is not for free of cost. You need to enable. Let me enable the detailed monitoring on this server once this server becomes ready. Let's wait. Now the server is running. If you go to monitoring, you can see like the CPU utilization, memory utilization, like this, but every 5-minute interval. Every 5-minute interval, you can see what was the CPU utilization, memory utilization, like that, only at every 5-minute interval. If required, let me enable the detailed monitoring. Just for demonstration, let me enable the detailed monitoring. So detailed monitoring is going to gather the metrics and the data is available in 1-minute interval. And again, detailed monitoring will charge. Detailed monitoring will charge, additional charges will apply. But anyhow, for learning purpose or demonstration purpose, let me enable the detailed monitoring on the EC2 instance. In this EC2 instance, I have enabled the detailed monitoring. I have enabled the detailed monitoring. Now only these are available for free of cost, right? Again, I have enabled detailed monitoring. Now every 1-minute interval you can see. And you can go to CloudWatch also. Keep a note of this. Keep a note of this instance ID. Go to CloudWatch also. You can see those metrics. Go to CloudWatch. Go to CloudWatch service. Go to metrics. All metrics. Let me go to all metrics. Now AWS spaces, which means by default AWS is gathering these metrics and EC2 metrics, right? I am going to EC2 metrics because I need that EC2 information, CPU, memory, disk, like that. If required, if you want to see load balancer metrics, you can go to this load balancer, right? For ELB, if you want to see the metrics, you can select that load balancer. You can select that load balancer, and you can see how many 502 status codes, how many 500 status codes. These are load balancer metrics, like how many 502 errors, how many 500 errors, how many 200 errors, because load balancer will process your request. So load balancer will have those access, right? So the load balancer is metrics also available. Now I am just explaining EC2 metrics. Let me go to EC2. I went to this metrics, guys. I went to this metrics. I went to EC2 under metrics, right? Let me go to per instance metrics, EC2. Let me filter with that instance ID. Let me filter with this instance ID. You can see there are metrics like CPU utilization, like that. These are free. And again, detail monitoring is enabled. So every 1 minute interval, for every 1 minute interval, I have the metrics. For every 1 minute interval, I have the metrics. Now, as of now, what is the CPU utilization of my server? This EC2 instance, you can see. What is the CPU utilization of my server? 0.16. 0.16. So it is gathering the metrics. Now, based on this metrics, I can create alarms also. Based on this metrics, I can create alarms. Let me go to alarms here in the same CloudWatch. In the same CloudWatch, there is something called alarms. There is something called alarms. Let me go to all alarms. As of now, I have not created any alarm. So let me create an alarm. I went to alarms. Let me create an alarm. I will select the metric. Based on what metric I want to create an alarm. So let me select a metric. I'll select a metric. Again, I will go to that AWS default metrics, EC2 for instance metrics. I'm typing that instance ID, and I'll select I select let me type this instance ID. Let me press enter. Let me press enter, and I'll select this metric. Based on this metrics, CPU utilization metrics, I can create an alarm. I'm selecting that metric. I'm selecting that metric. I'm selecting that metric. Let me 1 second. This is just now created, right? It is. We need to wait for some time. We need to wait for some time. Let's wait. Just now we created that server. Just now we created that server. Let's wait. So metrics are gathered. Metrics are gathered here. You can see this metric. You can create alarm from here also, guys. There are two ways. Either you go to alarms. Either you go to alarms. Click on create alarm. Select metric. Again, whatever based on whatever metric, right? You can apply a filter, and you can select what metric, using what metric you can create alarm. You can do like this also. Select metric and proceed. Otherwise, if you go to all metrics, from there also you can create alarm. From there also you can create alarm. Let me show that. Let me go to CloudWatch, all metrics, all metrics. So let me clear these filters. There are filters selected here. Let me go to browser. Let me go to browse. Let me clear this filter. Let me go to all metrics. So here, from here also you can create alarm. Go to per instance metrics, and you can do here. You can select this one. You can select this metric. You can select this metrics. You can select this metric. You can select this metric. 1 second. Where is that? CPU utilization. 1 second. You select this metric. Once you select the metric, Here also you have an option to create an alarm. If you go to this graphed metrics, you you see this one. You see this one. Basically, this one, this metric. You can see alarm button. You can see this alarm button. You can click. You can click alarm button to create alarm. You click on this create alarm also, it will be the same. Otherwise, you go to alarm section and select the metric. Whenever you go to alarm section also, here also you can create alarm, but here you need to select the metrics like this. Again, for instance metric, let me filter with instance id. Let me select based on what metric I need to create an alarm. Alarm can take some actions. That can be notification, that can be auto scaling action, or that can be a restarting or stopping or terminating that server. So it is not always message. It is not always message. Alarm, using alarm, you can take some action. That action can be notification, that action can be auto scaling the server, or that can be stopping or terminating the server like that. So let me select this metric, click on select metric. Now, whenever CPU utilization, average CPU utilization, you can say average or some or maximum like that. I selected CPU utilization metric. So whenever CPU utilization average is greater than or equal to some condition, some threshold value, I am saying, let's say anytime CPU utilization is greater than or equal to 90% on this instance ID and based on the CPU utilization, if the average for 5 minutes or for 1 minute, let's say you can take for 1 minute interval also. For 1 minute, if the average is greater than or equal to 90%, you are creating an alarm. What action you want to take? What action you want to take? There are various actions here. Notification, auto scaling action, EC2 action like this. Now, if I have to send the notification, you need to create a SNS topic and you need to create a email subscription for that SNS topic. There is one more service. I am not explaining that service anymore. So there is a one more service called SNS, simple notification service. You need to create a SNS topic, and for that SNS topic, you need to create a subscription, email subscription, and you can select that SNS topic, whatever SNS topic you have created, and for that SNS topic you have created a subscription, email subscription. So whoever subscribed that SNS topic, email subscription, whoever subscribed for that SNS topic, they will get the mail. But for that one, you need to create a SNS topic and you need to subscribe that SNS topic so that you will get the mail. Whenever that whenever that condition is satisfied, it will go to in alarm state. Whenever it will go to in alarm state, which means whenever the threshold value is satisfied, you can send the notification, but you need to learn one more service for that one SNS topic. You need to create a SNS topic and you need to subscribe that SNS topic. You need to subscribe email subscription through to that SNS topic. So whoever subscribed, those guys will be notified. This is notification action, but I am not doing any notification. Let me remove notification. One more action, auto scaling group action. Auto scaling group action. So if there is one auto scaling group, if there is one auto scaling group already created, you can select that auto scaling group so that whenever this condition is satisfied, it can inform that auto scaling group. But even though we already discussed auto scaling, that time I have not created alarm directly. But is that CloudWatch is that auto scaling group where I have selected target tracking policy? Is that policy created that CloudWatch alarms when we discussed about auto scaling group? We discussed already about auto scaling group. So that time that policy has created a CloudWatch alarms. If required, you can create alarm manually. So I am not doing any cloud auto scaling action also. If required, you can take some EC2 action. You can send the notifications, you can send auto scaling actions, or you can take EC2 action. What you need to do on that EC2? If required, the condition is satisfied. If required, I can stop the server. If required, I can terminate the server. If required, I can reboot the server. Understand? You can send the notifications if required. I am not sending any notification. I removed. You can take some auto scaling action. I am not doing any auto scaling action. Just for demonstration purpose, I am taking EC2 action. The moment the condition is satisfied, the metric or expression is exceeded that threshold value, what EC2 action you want to take? Let's say I want to reboot. Just for understanding, I am taking a reboot action. So let me click on next. I am giving alarm, say CPU utilization on this instance, alarm, something like this. I'm just giving an instance name or ID just for recognition purpose, something like this. Now I am creating an alarm with EC2 action, and this is my threshold value. Whenever CPU utilization greater than or equals to 80%, what actions I want to take? I can take a notification, I can send the notification, or I can inform auto scaling group, or I can take some EC2 action. As of now, I am going with EC2 action. Whenever this condition satisfied, this will reboot that instance. This alarm will reboot the instance. But if you see the current utilization, it is just 0 points only, like 2.228% like this is there, just 1%. So the moment it goes above 90, is that EC2 instance will be rebooted, because CloudWatch is gathering the metrics, and based on the metrics I have created an alarm, and based on in that alarm I defined some action, EC2 action. So the moment it goes above 90%, is that EC2 instance will be rebooted? Yes. So let me show that. Let me SSH to that server. I'll programmatically put the CPU pressure. I will programmatically put the CPU pressure. In the another tab, let me open CloudWatch also. If you see, I think did I created that create alarm? Okay. Did I miss that create alarm? Okay, I think I have missed clicking that create alarm. So let me do it quickly. I think I have missed on that clicking that create alarm. Let me do it quickly. I missed on clicking that create alarm. Okay. So whenever greater than 90%, for every 1 minute I want to monitor average of 1 minute. If it is 90%, I will not take EC2. I'll take only EC2 action. I'll reboot instance. Click on next. Let me give an alarm name. Click on next. Create alarm. Last time I missed that create alarm. So there is an alarm. So this alarm will take some action whenever the CPU utilization greater than for 90% for one data point within 1 minute. If within 1 minute, if it goes above 90% also, it will take some action, because in this CloudWatch I have defined some alarm action. So EC2 action. So as of now, the utilization is less. You can see the CPU utilization is hardly in the 0% or 1% like this. This is not 90. Now let me SSH to that server. In which I have created a CloudWatch alarm. I will programmatically put the load using some stress software. I can put the load programmatically. I can programmatically put the CPU utilization using stress software, and let's see what is going to happen. Let's see what is going to happen. So now I will install some software, stress software. I will install some software, stress software, to put the programmatically CPU load, CPU utilization. Let me do that. Let me do that by installing stress software. By installing stress software, I will put the CPU utilization just for demonstration. But in real time, it can happen due to load, actual load. So I am installing one RPM file. I am installing one RPM file in this server to install that stress software. To install that stress software. So let me install that stress software. Now let me put the, like I am executing stress command, I am saying -i5 CPU 1. So I am saying increase the CPU utilization to 1 core. The stress software will put the pressure on the CPU. I am saying put the pressure till 1 core CPU also. -m continuously let it be 2 minutes or 3 minutes, like that. So because I have enabled a detailed monitoring, every 1 minute also there is a data. So I have created alarm also at 1 minute average only. So let me execute this one using stress command. I am putting the load. Now you go to your EC2 instance, or you go to that CloudWatch alarm. You can go to that CloudWatch alarm. Currently the alarm is in OK state. Currently the alarm is in OK state because the CPU utilization is under threshold only as of now. Under threshold. But it is started spiking up because I am putting the CPU stress, right? It is started spiking up. The moment it goes above this 90, as per this CloudWatch alarm, I am taking some action. Is the EC2 instance will be stopped and started because I enabled EC2 action reboot? Yes. So let's wait for this. It is started spiking up. Now 10%. Now if it goes above this 90, you can see that alarm, instead of OK state, it will be in alarm state. The moment it goes above the threshold value, it will, instead of OK state, it will go to in alarm state. Let's wait for some time, 1 minute. If you see, let me keep on refreshing. Let me keep on refreshing. Now if you see, is it above 90 now? Because I have used CPU, that stress software, and I told 1 core CPU. Is the CPU utilization is 100 now? Now you can see this is above the threshold. Now if you keep on refreshing, and if this is 1%, I mean to say 90% above average, one data point within a 1 minute, within 1 minute interval, if the average is above this threshold value, the alarm, instead of OK state, it will go to in alarm state. So let's wait for that to happen. Now this is in OK state, but the threshold is crossed. It will fire alarm. If you see, is it in alarm state? Because it is goes above that threshold now. Since this went to in alarm state, now I have defined some action. If you see that action, what was my action on this alarm? Reboot. If I go to my instances section, if you refresh, right, that server might have stopped and started. Already you can see my SSH session is closed. Why it is closed? Because is that EC2 instance is stopped and started basically? Is it rebooted? Because of that, is my SSH session is terminated? Yes. And also, if you see, if you see, do you have one warning here? Do you have one warning here on this EC2? Because we created one CloudWatch alarm on this EC2. Is it saying one by one alarm like that? Because we put the CPU pressure and that CloudWatch is gathered the data and it is triggering the alarm based on the condition. Now my server is stopped and started again. My server is stopped and started again because of action which I am taking on EC2. So is everyone clear? What is CloudWatch? What is CloudWatch metric? What is CloudWatch alarm? CloudWatch is a monitoring service. CloudWatch will gather the metrics, and based on that metrics, I can create alarms. In that alarms, I can take some actions. In that alarm, I can take some actions like EC2 action, auto scaling action, or that can be sending a notification, SNS topic. Clear? Now, if you see again, it came down. Again, it came down because I stopped and started the server. That rebooted the server. Again, utilization came down. If you keep on refreshing, you can see it will be in OK state after some time again. It will be in OK state because the server is stopped and started. So that the stress process is killed. That the stress process is killed. So it is no CPU utilization again. You can see in OK state. But anytime it goes to above 90, is that alarm will take action based on whatever action you define in that alarm? Yes. So this is what? A CloudWatch alarm. But this is only CPU. But is it available by default memory related metrics? Do you have a memory related metrics? By default, like memory utilization. Like my RAM is almost 80% utilized, 90% utilized, like that. That is not available for free of cost. That is not available for free of cost. You need to enable the detail monitoring. Even after enabling the detail monitoring, you need to install CloudWatch agent and you need to configure. You need to install CloudWatch agent and you need to configure. Let me show that. Let me show that one also. If you see, there is no memory related metrics from the EC2 instance. You need to install CloudWatch agent. You need to install CloudWatch agent and you need to configure that CloudWatch agent. So if you see, all these details are giving here. All these details are giving here. Collect metrics and logs with CloudWatch agent. So you can install CloudWatch agent and you can gather the metrics from EC2 with the help of this CloudWatch agent. But this CloudWatch agent needs to be installed and you need to configure that CloudWatch agent. So instead of going through this document, let me explain how to install CloudWatch agent and how to configure your CloudWatch agent. What is required for your CloudWatch agent to send the logs? We'll discuss. Let me go back to the EC2 instance. Let me go back to the EC2 instance. Now I want to install a CloudWatch agent in this instance so that I can get custom metrics. I can get custom metrics like memory information, disk information, like that. But for that CloudWatch agent, for that CloudWatch agent to send the logs or send the metrics, for that CloudWatch agent to send the logs or metrics to the CloudWatch, you need to attach some permissions. You need to attach some permissions. So we will be using IAM concept again. We will be using IAM concept again. I am going to do this. First, I will create one IAM role. First, I will create one IAM role for CloudWatch agent to send the metrics or logs to the CloudWatch service. So first, let me create one IAM role. Let me create one IAM role so that CloudWatch agent requires permissions to the CloudWatch to send the logs or metrics. So we are doing that first. Let me create one IAM role. Let me create one IAM role. Let me go to the roles. Let me create one my own role. I am saying AWS service use case as EC2 because I want to attach this role to EC2. In EC2, I am installing the CloudWatch agent. Let me select EC2. So I will create that role using some policy. So that policy is basically this one, CloudWatch agent server policy. This is AWS managed policy. Let me search with that CloudWatch agent server policy. So let me select this one. So this policy is AWS managed policy. This policy is a AWS managed policy. This is a predefined AWS managed policy. Here, if you see, there are permissions for CloudWatch. CloudWatch related permissions are there. So let me select this policy. Go to next. I am creating one IAM role. And let me give that role name, maybe CloudWatch agent policy, like this. CloudWatch agent policy, like this. With this policy name, I am creating one role. This role I will attach to the server wherever I am going to install CloudWatch agent. This role I will attach to the server wherever I am going to install CloudWatch agent. Let me go back to EC2. Let me go back to EC2. Let me go to instances. I'll select this server. I'll go to instances, actions, security, modify IAM role. I will attach this role, CloudWatch agent, this one, CloudWatch agent policy, this role, whatever I created a role with this name. I'm attaching that IAM role. Then I will install CloudWatch agent. Guys, all these instructions they have given in official documentation. So I'm going to install the CloudWatch agent like this. I will give the running nodes. I will give the running nodes only. There's no documentation for CloudWatch. Then I'm just going to running to the Wait for a minute, guys. There was some network issue. I hope I am audible now again. There was some issue with GoToMeeting. So what I was saying last time. So if you need any custom metrics, you need to install a CloudWatch agent. I hope you follow till here, right? I think you are clear. I created one IAM role for CloudWatch agent to send the logs and metrics to CloudWatch service, and that IAM role, we attach to the EC2 instance for whatever EC2 instance in which I want to send the CloudWatch. I want to install the CloudWatch agent. Is these 2 points are clear? I hope I was audible till these 2 points. So we created one IAM role. And we attach that IAM role to this server. So let me install a CloudWatch agent. In this EC2 instance. So let me SSH to that EC2 instance. I will install CloudWatch agent. All these installation instructions I have taken from the official website only. I will share this. First, let me install wget. And this is a Red Hat machine. I am downloading the RPM file of that CloudWatch agent software. This is a Red Hat instance. I am getting a CloudWatch agent RPM file using wget. Then I will install that CloudWatch agent software using RPM. So I got this CloudWatch agent software downloaded. Let me install CloudWatch agent. Once you install CloudWatch agent, you need to configure that CloudWatch agent. Once you download and install CloudWatch agent, I have followed these instructions only, and I have created IAM role. With this CloudWatch agent server policy, and I attached that IAM role to that server already. Once that is done, next you need to configure your CloudWatch agent. That CloudWatch agent will take some configuration file. So I am creating that configuration file where I am defining what metrics needs to be done, what metrics has to be captured, that custom metrics. So you are going to create a CloudWatch agent configuration file. In that CloudWatch agent configuration, you can define some kind of a metrics, custom metrics, memory utilization, disk utilization, like this. So let me do that. So I installed CloudWatch agent. That CloudWatch agent got installed into OPT folder under AWS. When I executed this command, that CloudWatch agent software is installed in OPT folder under OPT AWS folder. Under this folder, I will create one agent file. CloudWatch agent file, where I am going to define what metrics has to be gathered. I am saying gather the memory used percentage metrics, and gather at every 60-second interval, like that I am defining. Gather at every 60-second interval, gather the memory used percentage. This is like a custom metric. So I am going to create a file like this to gather the custom metrics. I am going to create a file under that OPT folder AWS. This is created when I install that CloudWatch agent. So this is some file name. Which I am using. I am creating that file, and within that file I am creating some entries that agent what it has to gather. I am saying agent, right? Metrics. What metrics has to be gathered? Memory used percentage. At every 60-second interval, like this, I am configuring this information in this agent configuration file. Once this is done, you need to start the CloudWatch agent. With this option. I'm saying start the CloudWatch agent and use this configuration file, that agent file, whatever I have created. This is single command, guys. This is single command where I'm starting the CloudWatch agent and I'm saying use this config file, whatever I have created just now in that OPT, AWS, Amazon CloudWatch agent like this. Now let me start the CloudWatch agent by executing this command. One second. What is the file I created? That it is saying no such file or directory. So let me give the correct file. I created this file. Let me save this file. Here, let me give that correct file. So that can be anywhere. That can be anywhere. I just created a file like this. I just created a file like this directly in the agent folder only. Otherwise, you can create in a etc folder also. So let me give wherever you have created that agent file, that file path I am giving like this. This is where I have that agent configuration. Let me start. Now you can see the status. The CloudWatch agent is started. That agent is going to send the metrics, whatever I have defined as per my agent configuration. That memory metrics will be sent. But if before you do that, let's check the status of that CloudWatch agent by executing this command. Let's see whether they are in a running state or not. Now it is in a running state. Now let me go to CloudWatch. Again. Let me go to metrics. Let me go to CloudWatch. Let me go to metrics, all metrics. But these are custom metrics. You can see those type of custom metrics here. You can see those type of custom metrics here. You can see those type of custom metrics under custom namespaces like this. These are default metrics. Whatever you see here. Last time we went to this EC2 default metrics. Now I installed CloudWatch agent. In one of the server. And I configured that CloudWatch agent with whatever custom metrics. I am just demonstrating memory. So I configured that CloudWatch agent to collect the memory metrics. Now you can see here under this custom namespaces, you can see there are metrics for this instance ID. Because I installed that CloudWatch agent in this server, and I configured that CloudWatch agent to gather the memory metrics from here. If I select this one, you can see already is it gathering memory utilization from this server at every 1 minute interval. You can see here in the graph. Let's select maybe custom, maybe 5 minutes interval also. You can select every 3 minutes interval also. You can see because we enabled 1 minute interval. Let me keep on refreshing because just now we added, right? That agent. It will take some time. But do you see as of now what is the memory utilization of that server? The memory utilization, that is custom metric. What is the memory utilization of that server? You can see here at this point of time 17.2. If required, this is my custom metric. By installing CloudWatch agent, I am gathering this metric. If required, based on this metric also, can I create alarm? Can I go to alarms and can I select this metric and create alarm based on the memory also? Yes. If you see, this is a custom metric. Clear? CloudWatch agent is required in case if you want to gather the metrics other than the default metrics like memory, disk, those type of metrics. You need to install the CloudWatch agent and you need to configure that CloudWatch agent so that it can gather the custom metric. This is custom metrics. So this is a custom metric and you can see it is gathering the memory utilization like this as of now, this much. Clear how to install CloudWatch agent to gather the custom metrics and how to configure the CloudWatch agent? Now, CloudWatch can do one more thing, one more important point. CloudWatch can gather the logs, right? The way CloudWatch is gathering the metrics, the CloudWatch can gather the logs. What type of logs? That can be your system logs, that can be your system logs, or that can be your application logs. That can be your system logs, or that can be your application logs. So let's say you install Tomcat in that server, you deployed your application in that server. That Tomcat or application is generating some logs to some log file. Can I stream or can I send those logs to the CloudWatch using that CloudWatch agent again? Yes. So using CloudWatch agent, you can send your server logs or application logs to the CloudWatch. There you can visualize, or there you can stream the logs also. As of now, we have not configured any logs or that in any CloudWatch agents, right? So you don't see any log groups, you don't see any logs here. If required, I can gather the logs also using CloudWatch agent. Let me demonstrate that one also. Let me demonstrate that one. So let's consider you are taking this server as an application server. Let's consider you are taking this server as an application server, where you are going to install Tomcat and your application. Your Tomcat is generating the logs to which file? By default, that std out and std error. Tomcat is generating the logs in which file? In the Tomcat, you might have already learned. Is it generating the logs to catalina.out, catalina.out file in the Tomcat home directory logs folder? Yes. So if required, can I inform CloudWatch agent saying that whatever logs are being appended to that log file, send those logs to the CloudWatch like that? Yes. So let me do that. Let me do that. Let me SSS to the server. I already SSS. Let me install Tomcat. I'm going to install Tomcat and I'll deploy some application. I hope you know already how to install Tomcat, all these things. Just I'm explaining CloudWatch, what you can do using CloudWatch. So for that purpose, I'm going to install a Tomcat. Let me install Tomcat. Now I installed Tomcat, I started Tomcat. Tomcat will generate the log files. Tomcat will generate the log files into Tomcat working directory. Tomcat working directory. Logs folder, catalina.out. Whatever has been sent to that log file, those logs will be sent to the CloudWatch if you configure a CloudWatch agent to send the logs. Let me do that. Now I installed Tomcat. I just started Tomcat, but I have not deployed any application as of now. I have not deployed any application as of now. But let me show. Tomcat I have installed into this folder, and within this folder there is a logs folder, and the Tomcat is sending the logs std out and std error logs to this file catalina.out file. But as a developer, as a DevOps guy, I don't want to SSS to the server and see the logs. And I have 100 different application servers, 100 different application servers. Can I capture, or can I send, or can I capture all these logs to CloudWatch, a central place where I can query these logs also if required? Yes. So to do that, you need to have a CloudWatch agent installed, and you need to configure that CloudWatch agent, what logs has to be sent to the CloudWatch, whether it's a system logs, whether it's an application logs. Can I send the system logs also? Whatever has been sent to this where log messages. This is system logs, right? I can consider as a system logs. Can I send these system logs also to the CloudWatch? This where log messages. Is all these messages are logged by std out and std error by that system? Yes. If required, I can send these logs also to the CloudWatch. If required, I can send these type of logs also to the CloudWatch by installing CloudWatch agent, by by configuring that CloudWatch agent to send these logs. So let me deploy one application also first in the Tomcat so that you can understand. I have one WAR file already. Generated. I have one WAR file already generated in my local laptop web application. I'll deploy that application. I'll deploy that application into that server. I already have a WAR file, one WAR file, Java-based web application. WAR file is there in my local laptop. This WAR file I'll deploy. Since I am using MacBook, I will SCP. that WAR file with the help of that file, or let me go into that folder. Let me SCP. Sir, this does a agent will send these logs to S3? No, agent is sending the logs to CloudWatch only. CloudWatch is internally managing the logs. Internally, CloudWatch is storing the data somewhere, but that doesn't matter for us because CloudWatch agent is responsible for sending the logs to CloudWatch. How logs are being stored, how logs are being processed by, that is one application again, that is one service. CloudWatch will take care. How it is storing, how it is processing, that CloudWatch will take care. So it is not going to send the logs to S3. It is sending the logs to CloudWatch, and CloudWatch is storing the logs somewhere and processing those logs. Let me copy the WAR file which is there in my local laptop to that server just to deploy this application. But again, CloudWatch is very difficult to configure. CloudWatch is very hard to use. So that's why you have a lot of other custom solutions also, right? Can you go with Prometheus? Can you go with maybe App Dynamics, Datadog, or whatever other monitoring softwares you have, open source monitoring softwares you have, like Prometheus. You can install Prometheus agents, and your Prometheus can collect the metrics using Grafana. You can visualize the data using Prometheus. Grafana can collect the data from Prometheus and display. Otherwise, you can use for log aggregation and log monitoring, you can use Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana, like that. So AWS is also offering one service to gather the metrics, take some actions, notifications, or and logs also, but everything is chargeable. It is not for free of cost, right? So instead of going with this one, and again it is little complex. If you are not from a cloud computing background, if you are not from a AWS background, using CloudWatch and configuring the CloudWatch agents, that agent files will be complex. So instead of CloudWatch, you can go for other open source softwares like Prometheus for metrics, Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana for logs, log aggregation also. But AWS is also offering one service. Some people may go with CloudWatch. So that's why I'm demonstrating CloudWatch also. So let me copy my file first to that server. OPT Tomcat web apps. So Tomcat 8. Tomcat 8. So I deployed my application also now. You can see that application also getting deployed. You can see that the logs, Catalina logs. You can see that Catalina logs. So my application is getting deployed. One second. Which file I copied first of all? Let's wait for that. Okay, my application is started. That is fine. My application is started. Now let me access my application. Let me access my application on this server, but let me open the portal security group AWS concept. So let me open that port 8080 port on this server. Guys, this is a public server for now. This is a public server for now. That is fine for understanding CloudWatch. So let me enable port 8080 for accessing that application. Now I hosted my application. I hosted my application in that server. Let me access. But I want to see the logs. What is happening in the Tomcat? What is happening in my application? My application is also generating the logs. Tomcat is also generating the logs. I want to see what is happening. If there are some errors, some exceptions. But instead of going through the servers, instead of SSHing to that servers and see the logs, you can configure a CloudWatch agent to send the logs to CloudWatch. You can stream there. But as of now, I already installed CloudWatch agent. I already installed CloudWatch agent. I configured CloudWatch agent only for metrics. I have not configured for logs. Let me configure for the logs also. Let me go to that server where I have installed CloudWatch. So I will create a configurations to send the logs also. Last time when I explained, I just created a configuration. CloudWatch I have configured to send only the metrics. Now I can send the logs also. I am providing some additional configuration. I am saying collect the logs from this path. Collect the logs from this path also. I am collecting the logs, system logs also, that is captured in the var log messages. I am capturing the Tomcat logs also, that is being stored here. So I am giving some additional information. I am giving some additional informations to collect the logs also. I am saying collect these logs from this path, collect the Tomcat logs from this path. I am giving a name, logical group name. I am saying this is the group name. Capture these logs under this group and give the name for that logs with this IP address and instance combination. So these are CloudWatch related settings. Let me update that config file again, where I will give additional configuration. I will give additional configuration here. I will give some additional configuration here along with the metrics. I am giving some additional configuration, logs also, the logs also, but I will update only whatever is required. So let me take from here to here only because I have already added. Guys, if you make any mistakes in the JSON also, it will not work. If you make any mistakes in the JSON also, it will not work. So if you don't give this comma, it may not work. If you copy paste some additional character, it will not work. So make sure you are understanding the JSON also. I am updating this config file, that agent config file, CloudWatch agent. Whenever there is a change, whenever there is change in the CloudWatch agent, you need to stop and start the CloudWatch agent. So let me stop the CloudWatch agent because I have changed the agent configuration. I stop the agent. Now you can see agent is stopped. Sorry, agent is stopped. Agent is not running. Now let me start. Let me start. Let me start that agent again. Now I configured my CloudWatch agent to send the logs also. I can collect logs from various paths. I can collect logs from various paths. I am collecting system logs also. I am collecting Tomcat logs also like this. And CloudWatch agent will send whatever logs are being generated into this path, whatever logs are being generated to this path, it will capture and it will create a separate group name. These are system messages. These are application messages like that. It is going to create a separate group. Now I configured and I started. Let me go to CloudWatch again. Let me go to CloudWatch again. You have a metrics and you are gathering the metrics, and based on the metrics you are creating alarms. But now my alarm is okay because the CPU utilization is less. The CPU utilization is less. This is metrics. Now the CPU utilization less only under threshold only. Now you created a logs, your CloudWatch agent to gather the logs. CloudWatch agent to gather the logs. Now you can see the log groups. As of now, there is no log groups, but based on that interval, it will capture the logs and create a log groups, and you can see the logs here. So let's wait for some time. I configured that CloudWatch agent to capture the logs, and the CloudWatch agent is running also without any problem. Now here you can see those log groups. Let's wait for 2 minutes, because based on the interval, it is going to capture those logs and send these logs to CloudWatch. That agent installed in this EC2, installed CloudWatch agent here. That CloudWatch agent, whatever agent we installed here in this EC2, and we configured this agent to send some logs also along with metrics. So this agent is sending the metrics also, memory metrics, and this agent is sending the logs also to the CloudWatch now. Let's wait for that. Let me keep on refresh here. It will take some time, 1 or 2 minutes. And I configured to see if there are any issues with the CloudWatch agent itself. If there are any issues with CloudWatch agent itself, if there are any issue with CloudWatch agent itself, you can see this one. The logs at the CloudWatch agent logs also you can see that CloudWatch agent logs I am generating here. So there are no issues or errors with CloudWatch. That is fine. So let's wait for some time here. With the help of CloudWatch, can we restart the Tomcat service whenever my Tomcat service is down? You no need to do that. If you have auto scaling groups, in auto scaling group, you can define the health checks, right? You can define the health checks. If you guys are using ELB, that ELB, you can define the health checks on the application itself. If that application health check is failed, that server can be terminated and recreated. But again, if you guys are using Kubernetes, you are running your applications as a containers. Is that containers will be rescheduled, recreated where your Tomcat is running? Yes. There are various use cases for various tools. CloudWatch is collecting the metrics from EC2 instances. CloudWatch can collect the files from EC2 instances. But if you guys are running in a different deployment model, there are various tools, various technologies. Now let's wait for this CloudWatch to create a log group. CloudWatch to create a log group. Let's wait for that. You can see the logs there. You can see the logs there in the log groups. In the log groups, you will see two log groups because I configured that CloudWatch agent is up and running. There is no problem. It is running also, and I created a configuration. Like this, where I have enabled logs also, and I started that CloudWatch agent using that configuration file. We started, right? We stopped and started with that CloudWatch agent file. We no need to create a log group. That log group will be created by that agent only. Because in the agent configuration only I have given the log group name. If with this name, if there is no group already, it will create. If there is already a group, and it will create a log stream under that group. if there is already log stream with that name also, it will append the logs to this log stream. So that will be created, but based on the interval, it will take some time. Based on the interval, it will take some time. Let's wait. So we created a agent like this, where I have defined logs also, what logs has to be collected, right? And we with this configuration, I started my log, that CloudWatch agent. Currently it is running only. I have stopped like this last time, and I started with that configuration. With that configuration, I have started. This is my command where I informed start the CloudWatch agent, and this is my config file. I told this is my config file. I told start the CloudWatch agent with this config file, like that I have informed. So let me do that again. I just stopped again. Let me start. I started like this. Now you can see the status. CloudWatch agent is running, but it will take some time. All these are agent options, guys. All these are agent options, CloudWatch agent options. So if you need more about CloudWatch, there is a documentation. I'm just giving an overview. All these are your options for CloudWatch agent. -C stands for configuration. What is the configuration? That agent configuration. I am giving that path, right? That agent configuration path. All those things. So let's wait. Let's wait. Do you see log groups got created? Two log groups. One log group for system messages, another log group for my application messages, because I have given something like this. Log group name system messages, that is var log messages. Log group name application Java web application logs. From this path, I can see two log groups. Now if I see under this log group, there are log streams. That log stream system messages from this EC2 instance like this. Can I see all my system logs here? Whatever has been happening in my system, whatever has been sent to std out, std error, all my system logs. Yes. And can I check my application logs in this log group? And again, this is the stream, your Catalina logs. Can you see your Catalina logs here? Tomcat started like that, application started like that. When I am accessing my application also generating some logs. Now you can see all those logs here. Your application logs also, you can see here. Instead of going SSH to the server, instead of doing a cat on that one, you are streaming the logs from there. And there is advantage here. You can query. Suppose some method I am executing in the code, Java code. In the Java code, I am using logs. I can search with text pattern. There is some pattern here. Let me see my code. This application is also generating the logs. This application also generating the logs. The Java code is there. In the Java, there is a Log4j framework. That Log4j framework is generating the logs and sending the logs to console. So we are capturing those logs. Let me see this one, whether this function is executed or not, like that. This is the application logs. I can query those logs from this log group only. I can query these logs from this log group, right? I can go to this logs, application logs, log streams. I can query whether any errors are there, any exceptions are there, like is this method is executed or not, like that. Is this method is executed or not, like that. I can search. Let me see, is executed. Now you can see these logs are sent to the Tomcat Catalina. Those logs are captured here. Can I see my error patterns, my exceptions, what is happening, like this also? If there are any exceptions in that application or code when something is happening, I can search something like this also. So is everyone clear? What do you mean by CloudWatch? What do you mean by metrics? Based on the metrics, how to create alarms. In the alarm, what actions you take. If required, how to capture the logs and stream the logs here in the CloudWatch. Like this, there are various open source softwares also. Prometheus for monitoring, Elasticsearch or Splunk for logs. But if required, you can still go with AWS service itself, that is CloudWatch. But something cannot be done using Prometheus. Some things cannot be done using Prometheus or Splunk. AWS related events. Whenever EC2 instance is created, you need to take some action. Whenever EC2 instance is terminated, you need to take some action. That event based actions, if you have to do, you need to go with CloudWatch again. Clear? What is CloudWatch? How it works? Even though this is not a AWS course, I thought of explaining CloudWatch so that you can understand something new other than the Terraform also. That's it from my side, guys. That's it from my side. And tomorrow I'm going to start actual Terraform. Whatever has been discussed so far, this is nothing to do with Terraform. This is just a cloud concept. Without knowing this cloud concept, if you learn Terraform, it may not help you. I thought of explaining cloud, what is cloud computing, what is public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, the services in the cloud like EC2, EBS, S3, ELB, VPC, EKS, RDS, DynamoDB, all these things. Today we discuss CloudWatch. So that's it for first half. We are done with first half of our course. Tomorrow we are starting the second half. That is very, very important, Terraform. Tomorrow we are starting the first Terraform session. Thank you guys. That's it for today. Once your practice is done, terminate all these CloudWatch alarms. Terminate all these CloudWatch alarms, log groups, terminate that EC2 instance also. Whatever EC2 instance you created, you terminate that EC2 instance, you terminate that log group, you delete that CloudWatch alarm, all those things once your practice is done. Thank you guys. That's it for today. I'll continue tomorrow. And I'll share this notes. If you want to practice whatever has been discussed, you can practice. I'll share this running notes, how to install stress software also. These notes I will share. Thank you guys. Whoever is joining for only Terraform, let me know. I will add them to the group tomorrow. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow.